What do meringues and gangs have to do with each other? My talk today begins in a small town in Mexico where I was visiting this Jesuit university. On their campus, they have this high-tech innovation center where companies and classrooms coexist. Volkswagen was doing some research there. There's even a salsa company that does all of its product development in the center's food science labs. It's in those labs where I met this woman. I'm going to call her Marisol. She had just taken a tray out of the oven of some mocha meringues. And yeah, they taste even better than they sound, especially warm. This was her livelihood. She baked the meringues, packaged them up, and then distributed them to local tiendas in the area. The situation seemed odd to me, so I asked Marisol, "What are you doing in this high-tech innovation center?" Well, she used to work out of her house until the gangs came. They came in and they ripped the oven out of her kitchen, basically stealing her livelihood. She was just renting space at the university in order to continue her business and keep feeding her family. As I left the university that evening, passing through the many layers of security to get back to my hotel, I realized something. All those walls and those security guards that were protecting the students at this elite private institution were protecting Marisol from the gangs as well. No way could they come in and steal those university ovens. I've met a lot of people and made a lot of friends in the Americas because I travel for work for two reasons. First, I'm on the engineering faculty here at Marquette, and I serve on the International Association of Jesuit Engineering Schools. Second, I do global health research, and I founded a company that makes medical devices for poor countries. Meeting Marisol was one of the many experiences I've had that led me to the idea that I want to talk to you about today. That idea is comms in campuses. By that, I mean putting companies inside university campuses. I believe this is a way to protect those companies from corruption, both big and small. And I'm going to explain what I mean in my talk. Corruption on a small scale is all too familiar to people like Marisol. Gangs run towns in Central America, and every small business knows about the renta that you have to pay in order to stay out of the gang's line of fire. Gangs destroy lives too, not just businesses. I know of a scholarship student at a Jesuit university in Central America. She was about to graduate. One night on the bus ride home, a gang member approached her. He targeted her and her family, and he told her that she wouldn't live to see the end of the week. That very night, she scrounged up every penny she could and fled for the United States. Unfortunately, that story is all too familiar to many immigrants to our country who seek refuge from murder. Corruption can exist on a large scale as well. I've experienced extreme wealth disparity firsthand. In Guatemala City, I stay in Zone 10 because it's the safest part of the city. It's also the poshest part of the city with super high-end malls and fancy restaurants where you can see abuelas sipping on expensive wine. Contrast that with the rural sites I go to where my company is trying to improve health. It's just a few miles away. Often there's no electricity, there's no running water, and you see children with distended stomachs from malnutrition. This type of corruption was described very well by Acemoglu and Robinson in their book, Why Nations Fail. In it, they make the case that extractive economies are a major cause of poverty and failed states. By extractive, they mean that the wealthy just focus on rigging the system and extracting or keeping all of the money for themselves instead of reinvesting it into industries and jobs for their fellow citizens. That's the larger type of corruption I'm talking about here, institutional or statewide corruption. Seeing all this poverty and corruption, it makes us want to do something about it, especially in Central America, who are literally our neighbors. And I mean neighbors in the Good Samaritan sense here. One way I see people doing good is on virtually every plane ride I take down to Latin America. On those flights, I see groups of good people, all wearing the same brightly colored t-shirt, so they don't get lost. And they're going down to build a church or a school. Good types of aid like this all have something in common in that they're direct, meaning money flows directly from one person to another without any corrupt intermediaries. The most direct form of aid, though, is remittances, That is, immigrants sending part of their paychecks back home. The World Bank estimates that 20% of the El Salvador economy is remittances, and I've seen some estimates as high as a third. All those undocumented workers up here are propping up those fragile economies to the south. And they're doing so directly, from separated father to separated mother, just by using an app on their phone. All of this aid does good, but it may not be sustainable, in my opinion. Moreover, it would be better if that immigrant father had a job in his homeland instead of having to be torn from his family just to find work, or worse, to flee the gangs. And all those mission trips, the ones that build churches and schools and bridges, they do good. But they don't create a lot of jobs. The more tangible benefit, I believe, happens within the heart of that individual wearing that brightly colored shirt, whose worldview is transformed by their experience. I have a lot of friends in the Americas, and my friends need vocation. They need meaningful work. Moreover, they need to transform their economies from agrarian, largely coffee and sugar, to tech sectors. During this pandemic, I've received so many urgent emails and phone calls. My friends don't have enough PPE. They don't have enough healthcare technology. It was very frustrating for me because this was such a preventable catastrophe. If only they'd been able to modernize and diversify their economies to produce their own equipment, we could have saved the lives of thousands and thousands of people and prevented the utter collapse of the economy in that region. That's where my idea comes in. I want to create comms in campuses. I want to create tech companies in developing countries, and I want to put them inside universities to protect them from corruption, both large and small. I believe the Jesuit University Network is an ideal place to start this idea for two reasons. One, it's part of who we are. Two, we actually have the power to do this. First, we should do this. We should do this because we are people with and for others. I know people at Jesuit universities hear that phrase over and over again, but it remains true. We should do this because it's in our mission to provide preferential option for the poor. We should do this because it's in our mission to provide vocational development around the world. Through education, yes, but through other means as well. All of these things are in our core values. Second, I believe we have the power to do this. Jesuit universities and university networks in general have shown that they have more political power than small-time regimes. This is especially true in the Americas, where Jesuit universities have such prestige. In 1989, military agents assassinated Father Echecuria and 5 other Jesuits, all university professors in San Salvador. The outcry from the United States and the world, led by the Jesuit university community, was so great that it is given credit in part for leading to the end of the El Salvador Civil War. University networks in general have shown that they have political might. In the 80s, universities mobilized to boycott South African products like apples. That boycott was so successful that it is given credit in part for leading to the ultimate downfall of apartheid. So, one can't discount the potential clout of an international network of universities in fighting statewide corruption. Jesuit universities can be employed to effect change for good in this way. Putting tech startups in Jesuit university campuses to protect them from corruption is also an economic good. The university's political power, their facilities, even their security guards can all easily serve double duty here and generate revenue for education. The universities can train the high-tech workforce that the companies need, and in turn, the companies can provide very high-paying jobs for their graduates. This comms in campuses idea, it's not a crazy one. We've already done this here at Marquette. Gas Day was a software company that existed on the 5th floor of the old engineering building for many years here. The main point about this company is that revenue was funneled back into the education of students. Student workers got an amazing education in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and many of them even got their master's degree paid for by Gas Day. The company got so successful that they eventually had to spin it off. It's now making a ton of money and jobs here in the 3rd Ward in Milwaukee. Marisol and her meringues are yet another example of a common campus. Even if it affects just one family like hers, it's worth doing. So this is absolutely an idea that has good precedent. We can do this, I'm confident. All we need to do is leverage what we already have, that is, connecting our network of industrial partners and alumni with Jesuit universities in the Americas. We just need a few pilot projects to test out is all, and I thought of one as an example for this talk, printed circuit boards. You know those green things inside your computers and devices? Well, some companies in Wisconsin outsource the manufacture of those printed circuit boards to China. However, I've seen Jesuit universities in the Americas with facilities that can manufacture those very same printed circuit boards and do it in our own time zone. This is one of the many examples I've seen in my travels. Maybe we don't have to make just meringues, we can also make microcomputers too. So that's my goal for the International Association of Jesuit Engineering Schools and the Americas moving forward. I want to create comms in campuses. I want to find tech startup ideas from our industrial partners, pilot them in Jesuit universities in the Americas, and watch how those seeds grow into sustainable economic engines. The projects could be in almost any area, from steel to software, even cerveza. And that brings me full circle back to Marisol. That Jesuit university opened its doors and saved Marisol and her children from a life without food or shelter. I believe Jesuit universities can do that and so much more. The Jesuits have a term for this, magis, which means doing more. It means accepting a greater challenge in order to do more good. I want Jesuit universities to do the magis, to help create meaningful work in places that so desperately need it.